Welcome to our podcast and strap in for Movie Monday. Hi, I'm Mickey Madison.
And I'm Jack Green.
Today's Movie Monday film is 1BR. It's a drama, thriller, horror written and directed by David Marmer and stars Nicole Bryden Bloom. It's rated TV mature. The synopsis is, a young woman tries to make it on her own in LA by signing a lease at a new community-focused apartment complex where overly friendly neighbors welcome her with open arms. What rating did you give it?
I gave it 3.5 kernels. I didn't love it, and I definitely didn't hate it. It was just right in the middle. Because I would say it was almost really good. But
I agree.
There's just a few things.
I liked it. It wasn't a new concept per se, but it was done well. It was watchable and stuff was actually happening. Okay, stop and watch the movie first now, or strap in for major 1BR movie spoilers.
So my favorite line from this movie, it was hard to decide. Not because there were so many great lines, but nothing really stuck out to me. Um, but I did like where Lester is talking about his ex-wife, and he says she was telling him, "This is your life now, and you have to accept it." I just thought that was really emotional and creepy. It just felt like you want to resign all hope once you were fully entrenched and indoctrinated into the community. So I just like that, and I like this character, so maybe that's why I chose that as my favorite line.
Yeah, that was a good one. I agree. My favorite line was when she was tied to the chair and then she was easily able to break it into like 1,000 pieces. And then he was like, "Fucking IKEA."
I do remember that. Yeah, I wasn't thinking of that, but that was a funny,
Yeah.
funny line.
I think, honestly, for me, that was the only thing that was funny in the whole movie, but it was really funny. So I
Yeah,
appreciate it.
actually, it was really different tone from the rest of the movie. That line really stuck out.
Mm-hmm. All right, you can go into your cons, sir.
All right, we're gonna discuss what we didn't like about the movie. And what I didn't like. The biggest thing I would say is the ending. It was kind of unexplained. I would have liked a little more resolution, and I would have liked a little more backstory, maybe, because she walks out, into the community and escapes, and then she sees all the lights flashing, red lights in the neighborhood. Like
Mm-hmm.
it was part of some giant surveillance system that went well beyond the apartment complex and went who knows how far out into the greater community, which was a nice twist. I like that, but that the fact that they didn't give more to that and explain it better kind of detracted from that for me. Some of the other things I didn't like were some of the incidents that happened in the film, which I found were kind of hard to believe, or just for me personally, because everyone's different. Everyone would react differently in this type of situation.
Mm-hmm. True.
One is like the main character's, her hands being nailed to the wall, and she kind of like did it quicker than I think a normal person would.
Right. Yeah, I agree with that for sure.
And she didn't. I feel like someone would have to hold you to the wall. Someone would have to hold most people to the wall and hold their hands there and have someone else nail it in. Very few people would be so afraid that they would willingly allow it to be done to them.
Mm-hmm.
And the other thing that bothered me was this village coexisting without anyone noticing. Like it just seems like it would be hard for this to remain a secret. You see the ending where this is much larger than we're led to believe, the beginning of the film. So that's why I feel like I would have been more accepting of that flaw in the film if they had explained how large this operation was. But it wasn't really a forgivable flaw in my opinion because they didn't put that backstory in there. They don't have to put a lot, but just put a little bit of backstory to explain how this has coexisted for so long, despite so many people being involved and such brutal tactics being used. But anyway, that's kind of resolves my flaws, or cons. What did you not like?
For me, it was that several things were so predictable. It was dotted with unexpected things, but I felt like a lot of it I saw coming, so there was not a lot of shock factor. Like, pretty obvious from the beginning that the neighbors were overly friendly and were going to be wackadoodle very soon. And it was weird to me that she fell for that, especially with having an open house when there's only one occupancy available. That was just bizarre to me. It seems like that alone would be a red flag. You know what I mean? Like, why are you going through all this
Yeah.
in person to join your community? And if your community is that great, you shouldn't need to do that. And then she noticed some weird things too, like the wall was like scraped weird, just different things that I would have been like, nah, I'm not going to stay here. And she was just down with it. Especially by yourself, you would be more concerned, I would think.
hmm
Another thing that was predictable was when Brian first ties her up and she escapes and she runs right to another community member, assuming that they were going to help
Yeah.
her. Which, after that, I don't think I would trust anybody. Like, you already had these crazy noises in your apartment. I think that was after she got the note already. Remember about her cat? Oh, yeah, and she just found her cat in the oven, which that is another one of my cons. That was awful. That cat scene was very predictable, upsetting, and unnecessary, in my opinion. Most horror movies seem to fall into the animal abuse realm for their inciting incident, which I don't like at all. I don't understand why so many do it, because it's shock value and it's low hanging fruit, and I don't like it. Can come up with something better.
hmm
Not to say that it doesn't ever have a place, but I feel like it's way overused and it's awful. So yeah, just a lot of that. And then also when they murdered Edie because she wasn't useful anymore and she was too old, I felt like that was obvious. And I don't know, it was a lot of very predictable moments. You're just watching it play out at that point, basically. So do you want to go ahead and go into your pros?
It was visually graphic, but not excessive. There was only moments of excessive. I guess if you watch movies like Saw, Hostel, and other movies where it's very, very graphic throughout the entire film, this would seem not too bad, because it's only a couple moments. Animal abuse is definitely a trigger for me in films. I don't like to see that, and I don't feel like it's necessary, but other people breeze right through it and it doesn't bother them, but they have other triggers,
That's true.
for
That
them
is a good.
personally. But yeah, I don't think the film was, that's a pro in my opinion, that it wasn't too graphic. And I think it can actually subtract from the quality of the film when you just rely on shock value. I
Mm-hmm.
also like the pacing of the film and the runtime. It wasn't too
Yes.
long. Like you said, maybe it was just a little too predictable, but it really kept me interested all the way through. And I like the story. It was somewhat unique. I can't say I've never heard of an idea of the idyllic community that turns bad or goes wrong.
Right.
That theme has been visited many times, but it's not that often where I couldn't enjoy this film. Overall, it was just a nice watch, basically, a nice weekend watch, maybe. I wouldn't say I would watch it multiple times, but once or twice,
Right.
pretty strong for a once or twice watch.
Yeah, I agree with that.
What are your pros?
So my first one is similar to what you said. I like that it got right to it. There's so many movies that it takes like 40 minutes to even get anything exciting to happen, and you're like bored at that point. And I liked her backstory with her father. I thought that was good. It gave depth to her and her father's relationship because as her mother was dying from cancer, he cheated on her with her nurse.
Mm-hmm.
As bad as you can get. So I thought that was necessary because her character is scared most of this movie, so you don't really get to see how she would really react to things, apart from the beginning, because she has to act the whole time like she believes what they're saying and stuff like that. So it was nice to get moments where we kind of see what she's like and how she feels about things. And then I also thought they handled her disappearing from society believably. They did that on their own without having to force her to call or do anything. The movie actually had a really Scientology feel to it.
Yeah, I would agree.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And I like that we find out that everyone in the community went through the same process as her. So it's not just a bunch of evil people, like the main people running it are, but not every single person. Like a lot of them are victims like her. So I thought that was good to bring into it. And apart from the predictability, there are some things that I didn't expect, like that angry note in the beginning when they put it under the door. And like kind of did what the cat thing did, but better, in my opinion, because it was less expected, I guess. I also liked the book idea that it was all based around because there are 4 agreements: selflessness, openness, security, and acceptance are all good things. And it just goes to show that if you don't have the right system in place, that even good things can go bad because everything in this community was horrific. Their concepts, though, were good if they had done it the right way and weren't so extreme about everything. And I like how they talked about choosing her because she's like, "Why did you choose me?" or whatever. And they said, "Well, because we felt like you needed us and we needed you." And that's kind of how people get into cults because
Hmm.
they character flaws and weaknesses and try to manipulate them. That's how they get people. They manipulate them and get them to feel safe and part of a family and needed and trusted and and then it slowly gets worse and worse. So I thought that was good that they touched on that. Oh, and I will say in the very, very beginning of the movie, I thought it was going to be a human sacrifice situation where they were going to, basically kill her for some god or something. So I thought it was good that they took it in a different direction. So not every single thing was predictable. I'm just saying there was a lot of that. And then actually, I disagree with you on the ending. I think that was actually really good. That was one of my pros. I like that she actually fought back. And that guy that you liked with that quote, I like that he helped her and it made sense. Because sometimes for endings, just to tie everything together, they'll have some random person show up and like save the day and everything. And I felt like with his storyline that it actually worked. So I thought that was good. And then I liked the alarm going off and showing that it was bigger than just this one community, which to me makes more sense why they got away with it for so long because it is so much bigger. And it was definitely better than a lot I have seen, especially in this genre. So yeah, they could have explained more like you were saying, but I felt like I was okay with the way that it ended, and I thought it was interesting, and I didn't expect a surprise really at the end.
Yeah, like I said, I just wanted more. That's all. I didn't say it was bad. I didn't.
Right.
The characters, their actions were believable and everything, and I liked that he helped her. I liked all that. I was just saying I wanted more at the end. I feel like it was wasn't enough of a cliffhanger. I guess it didn't give me enough information to really make me question and think about the movie after it was over. And if they would have gave more information on its size and complexity, I might have really thought about the film more.
Yeah, they definitely could have delved further into that.
But it's just a preference. Not every
Mhm.
movie has to do that, but I think it would have benefited from that because it deals with deep themes that have to do with society and what a perfect society means, what it means to be a member of a community, and sacrificing for one another for the greater good. So yeah, it deals with really deep themes. So I think they could have just done more with that, and it really opens up a lot of philosophical questions on what type of society do we want. A lot of people are against communism because you can't force a way of society onto a community and expect them to adapt it. So if you do that, it always turns ugly, which is what happens in the case of communism.
Mhm.
And we saw that there, the methods and the lengths they had to go to keep the community under control and indoctrinate them. It turns into an ugly form of brutality because in order to hold up the values, that's the price that they have to pay. So it would just be nice if you didn't need surveillance in every room. You didn't
Yeah.
need to polygraph people. People were just open because they cared about the community. It doesn't play on people's better natures. It plays on people's supposed evil or their flaws as a human. So, but that's a personal choice. You can't. Not everyone's going to do that. Not everyone's going to be the best version of themselves. So in this one, they resorted to torture and pain to manipulate people and brainwash them into behaving in a way that is socially healthy.
Yeah, which is funny because it ends up not even being socially healthy like they set
Hmm.
out to do because remember forcing marriages and things? Like how is that it might be better for that guy, but I guarantee it's not better for that girl. So if it's the community and everybody is supposed to be better off with this, they should still get their opinion on if they want to marry these people. So I don't know.
Yeah, yeah. I liked Lester. He was funny because I thought he was going to be a really bad guy because he was after they were married. He said, "Let's get you home," and I thought he was
Yeah.
going to like rape her. Basically, he has to know that she's. Yeah, he saw that the marriage was news to her, but then he had made that sewing machine room for her, and that's what he
Oh, was
had
that what
been.
happened there? I did not understand what happened there at all. I'm glad you said that because I saw her sewing machine there and I thought they had just lugged her stuff in there. And then she reacted all happy and I was like, I don't like she's happy that her stuff is in there. I thought maybe she was just playing him or something. So thank you. That makes way more sense now.
Yeah, they had. He said, "Let's get you home" after they were married, and he stood by the bed, and he said, "Come here," and she wouldn't budge. And then he got more aggressive. He's like, "Get in here," basically, and led you to believe he's going to rape her. But
Hmm.
then they got interrupted, and she was kind of freed from that situation. Later on, she's placed right back into the same situation with him standing by the bed. And when she comes in, she finds a little alcove next to the bed, a little room basically where he had set up a sewing machine and her supplies and stuff. So he was actually a nice guy.
Yeah, because I did get that he was nice and like he didn't react how I thought, because I thought he was going to rape her too, so that was good. But I didn't get that he actually set it up for her. I was just thinking the community had carried her stuff in there, basically. You know what I
That's
mean?
what it led
But
me to believe, is that he
yeah,
set it up,
no,
but I don't know.
I think you're right, because that makes way more sense. I think you're right on that.
So yeah, and then of course, he saves her at the end,
Mhm.
sacrifices his life. So yeah, he ended up being a really good guy. So it was a
Mhm.
really big character twist.
Yeah,
Um,
I agree.
Another thing that I liked is the movie got me thinking about how I would react in this situation and what my options would be. I often like to watch movies and think about how would I get out of this situation. If I were the character, what would I do? And I gotta admit, it was a pretty tough situation. I'm pretty good at thinking my way out of things, or at least coming up with ideas. And they had surveillance on every room. Everyone was complicit. So she was in a very tight spot in terms of escaping. And
Hmm.
she ended up doing it, which it could have worked out a million different ways, where she didn't successfully free herself. So I'm surprised that she did. But yeah, I was thinking of all different ideas, like filling the floor with water and ripping an electrical socket out and laying it in the water so that when people came in the room, it electrocuted them.
Oh yeah.
Um, I was thinking basically, how can I take out the most of them at once so that I would be able to free myself? Because she's dealing with, I didn't count, but it seemed like there was like at least 20
Mm.
people in the community, many of them men, that could actually really physically restrain her easily. So yeah, I was thinking, or poisoning their food, maybe creating a dinner where everyone gets poisoned. That would free her. Um, but yeah, so either way, when I thought about this, she's going to be there for a while. She did not have a quick exit available to her. She would have to really plan, and it was going to take weeks or months for her to free herself.
Yeah, and I think if her friend hadn't gotten involved unknowingly because she wasn't aware that that's how the community was, because she actually believed them that she was crazy, and so signed up basically and joined the community without realizing. But if her friend hadn't done that, I don't think she would have escaped, at least not as soon, because her friend obviously didn't believe it. Like she wasn't there long enough to get brainwashed. And then they tried to get her to stab her in the ear or something, right? With that metal stick.
Hmm.
Uh, and then that's how she gets out. She stabs the guy instead. But I don't think she would have been in a situation like that had her friend not been sacrificed, basically, which is sad. But
Yeah, that brings something up. I just thought of one another con, I guess you would call it maybe, is I didn't get to know her well enough. Like I didn't get to know the main character's mind well enough because we peer into an actress or actor's mind by their interaction with other people who they feel they can confide in.
mm-hmm.
And this film didn't have that because everyone was basically against her. And anyone that did come in, like her father or her friend, she couldn't really be open with them under that surveillance environment. Get to know her frame of mind on why she was doing what she was doing. I can only speculate, but I like where you can get inside their head a little bit and know what they're feeling. She was kind of a mystery. She was almost stoic from the abuse.
Yeah, it's funny actually because it reminded me of Carrie. You know the movie Carrie
Yeah.
and the actress in that. Because you're kind of like this dead-eyed, not quite, but yeah, you're just basically going through the motions and you don't really know what they're thinking. It's hard to read them. So yeah, I agree.
Was she? Yeah, like I still can't determine if the main character was truly conflicted or not about being there. Because
Oh, I
at
don't
certain,
think I could be wrong, but I feel like her eyes tell you the most, and I think she never believed it ever. You could always tell, in my opinion, that she was scared and just doing what they want so she could live. Even when her friend came and everything, because when her friend came, she was even trying to hint at her without them knowing that
hmm
basically, we can try to escape at some point, but you got to play along for a while, and the friend wasn't getting it. In my opinion, they didn't brainwash her at all. I think one point though, when after she had been nailed, and she remember thinks her dad's talking to her, she
uh-huh.
kind of lost it there for a bit, and she rips her hands out and everything off the wall.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that was
Yeah.
the closest it came, but I still don't think she actually lost her mind and believed them at any point. But that's at least my take on it.
Yeah, I don't mean to say that I was wondering whether she had been brainwashed, but
Oh,
I guess what I meant is there were certain moments in the film where it seemed like she appreciated the community. She appreciated little things that they had done for her. And she was like, this isn't such a bad place. Yeah, once you get past the violence and the everyone stays in line and everyone cares about each other. I think there's part of her that was conflicted in the sense that she's like, if you get rid of the violence and the oppression and the surveillance, the qualities, like you said, are good. This is what we want in a community. She just disagreed with certain things. She disagreed with how they were going about it, but not the idea of an open community. But
yeah.
but I agree. I would say for like over 90, 95%, she clearly didn't want to be there.
Hmm.
But there might have been maybe 5 or 1 or 2% chance, 1 or 2% rate where she was this kind of something that I like. This is what I like in a community.
It's funny that you say that because I can see that possibly being the case because I just assumed she was acting that way they wouldn't be onto her, because
Hmm.
if she says that but doesn't make it believable, you're not going to buy it and then she's going to get locked away or who knows what. But yeah, maybe she really did at certain times think maybe it's worth staying, and I don't know. It's an
I'll, I'll
interesting.
I'll give you an example.
Okay.
When Mrs. Stanhope was basically going to be murdered by the community, she said no, she doesn't need to die. I'll take care of her. So she was taking on extra duties to save the life of someone who was still oppressing her because they were all in on it basically together.
That's
But she was
true.
willing to like take care of her. So it's like she still saw good in these people. Maybe she thought they were mentally ill and she, still wanted to help them, or maybe she felt camaraderie. She really did enjoy some of her time there. So it's hard to say.
Correct me if I'm wrong because I don't remember, but I don't think Edie actually did anything bad to her personally. Like I don't think she held her down or anything. I
She
think she
did,
just
yeah,
tried to talk and help her and stuff. And I think all the madness starts, she was helping her, remember, with her meds and different things. So I think she had this connection already.
like a
And
mother
then
figure.
kind of, yeah. And because her dad's situation is not good, her mom passed away, so I think it was kind of like this filler mom for her. So then when all this happened, yeah, she's part of the community, but I think they had somewhat of a bond there. So I think of all the people there, she was the one that she could actually talk to. Plus, she's a good person, doesn't want to murder people. So maybe she would have been that way anyway, regardless of the person. I don't know.
Yeah, like I said, that's part of what's difficult about her. Is it's hard to read, or at least for
Yeah.
me personally, why she did certain things but didn't do others. So,
Mm.
and how she generally felt about everyone. See, I like how she kept the cat off of her apartment application. That was funny. He's like, "You don't have any pets?" And she's like, "Nope." And then she has a cat in the next scene. So it's just funny
Yeah.
that she was deliberately hiding that.
Yeah, I don't
Um,
understand because that really happens. People lie to their apartment, but to me, it's not worth the nerve wrackness of anytime someone could open my door and my cat will come out, or you know what I mean, or like you can get evicted very easily over that. So I don't understand why she would do that.
yeah, I agree. Obviously, the people are insane, but they're
Hmm.
not. I mean, if you do sneak animals in that people could be allergic to, that is kind of a selfish thing to do. I mean, we have rules for reasons, and that's
Yeah,
part of society, right? That's part of the problem of society is people don't look out for one another and do what's best for other people. They only do what's best for themselves. But yeah, but obviously it was taken to a level of insanity where they're burning cats and tying her up and threatening people with notes. Obviously, is still insane. But
yeah,
I know some people are allergic to cats where they have trouble breathing and they actually need medical attention. I don't think it would affect people in another apartment. So it's really a small thing, but it's more reflective of that people can be selfish though sometimes in terms of how we act in society.
yeah. That's true. And I think another reason that a lot of apartments don't allow animals is because cats and dogs too, like any pet really, can cause damage to the apartment.
Mm-hmm.
And they don't
True.
collect a pet deposit if they don't allow pets. So you basically are lying to them and then potentially doing damage and not paying for it. So it's kind of a big deal to sneak an animal somewhere if it's not allowed.
Yes.
Health risks definitely too.
Yeah, and it's Small things, small actions we take in society are victimless sometimes. Most of the time, they really don't hurt anyone directly, but they add up, and that's how you form a culture, right? A culture
Mhm.
is a way of behaving by the multitudes of people. And if everyone behaves in their own self interest, it creates a negative culture. And you start feeling the effects of that cumulatively. So I don't know, it's just, it seems very benign. Oh, I don't follow the rules. I don't follow the small rules. But then that builds up, right? And you have a negative community, you have a negative city or state or country because it leads all the way up to the top. It's sad that you can't have a community that's built on trust and openness and kindness. We have some of it, but by no means is it a way of being
Utopia.
for. Yeah, it's not a utopia, and it's not even a way of being for everyone. People do what they can, I think. Even in psychology, I think they said, like popular psychology, it says people are more likely to help one another if they're doing well personally. So if you're having a good day, then you're more likely to help other people when you're doing good. But most people in life, they're not doing too good, depending on where you are in the world. So
Yeah.
what would happen is people wouldn't be treating each other very well. It's just sad, like I said.
It's really sad that it all comes down to money. I don't know what the solution would be because we kind of need money, but it's just frustrating because I feel like most of the evil in the world is money related.
It's not money itself, but it's rather materialism and how we react to the materialism that is inside of us.
Hmm.
That urge to have material things or services like pleasure versus pain, because that's everything in life is pleasure versus pain. It's either good food or bad food. It's either a nice, spacious, large house that's comfortable, or a tiny house that's obstructive. So that's how we're programmed, is to seek out the pleasure and minimize or hopefully get rid of the pain. But it becomes at the expense of other people. And that's where the problem comes in. So there's only so many resources. So then we have government and we have an economy that stratifies that and has a value system attached to it so that we can delegate goods accordingly and resources accordingly. So then we're delegating pleasure accordingly. I wouldn't say we cause pain, but if you don't have the pleasure, that's what you're left with is the pain, basically. So like I said, this film is kind of deep when you start exploring the themes upon which it's based. I like stuff like that. Can you think of a movie that we watched in the past that had to do with an elevator? I can't remember what it's called, but I know that you and I watched it.
Oh, Devil?
No, it wasn't Devil. That is another deep movie about an elevator. This was more about an elevator with food.
Oh, I know what you're talking about. I'll look it up.
It's another deep movie about society and how we determine who gets what resources.
It's called The Platform.
Yeah, the platform. Can't remember a lot about it. So the platform was actually a foreign film, and I don't want to spoil anything for anyone, but the general premise is that there's people existing at every level of this building, basically, in an elevator that runs from the top to the bottom. It's hard to say how many floors. No one really knows because they're all stuck on their individual floor. And food, a giant gourmet banquet, basically, is at the very top platform, and people get to eat from it. And then it goes down to number 2, 3, and 4, so forth, all the way down to the very bottom. And then it comes back up. So, and then they refill it, and it commences over and over again. That's how they eat each day. But then you look at the lives of the people living at each platform, and why are they at the level that they're at, right? How do we justify that if people are living in that situation? Who gets to be on platform 1 and who gets to be on 61? Well, it's a metaphor basically, but in our society, it's a value system. What can you contribute to society? And how rare is what you contribute to society? If it's commonplace like manual labor, something nearly anyone can do, you're going to be on the lowest platform. If it's something that's cognitive based or talent based, or even just in demand, it's going to be much higher level on the platform. And that's subjective one. Is that the correct way to do things? And that's when you have things like communism, socialism, these other ideas, when how society should be run. That's where they emerge from. But history has shown us they don't do too well. And they turn into a very ugly thing. Reasons why is debatable, I guess, depending on who you talk to. But capitalism is something that leads to flourishing of countries and growth of countries and growth of the individual. So yeah, and that's the deep themes that the platform explores basically. I won't ruin any of what happens or plot details. Yeah, it's hard to describe, at least for me, eloquently.
No, you did good. I think you explained it well without giving everything away. And I give that a 5 kernel rating, if anyone is wondering. What would you rate it?
Well, I don't know. It's hard for me. I don't think it's a bad movie. I like the themes that it plays on, but it was, I don't know, it was upsetting for some
It is.
reason to me. It's
It is
disturbing.
upsetting, but I think it was done very well. And like you said, it brings up a lot of good points, and it's kind of a visual look at government and how, I don't know, there was a lot to it, and I just really liked it. Not that it's a perfect film, but I loved it, so I'm giving it a 5.
Well, I think that's a fair one. I would give it not far from a 5. I would give it 4, 4.5, something like that. It just seems whenever you do a deep film with themes on society, you're bound to oversimplify it because society is not simple. Society is very complicated. That's why we've
Mhm.
had millennia of civilizations that have been trying to get it right, despite people who maybe don't care what happens to anyone else. They don't want what's best for society. We definitely had a number of those people throughout human history. It would be nice if they could do a film that is the perfect metaphor for it, I suppose. But I've yet to see one, that really hits the mark, in my opinion. And I feel like maybe if there was more films like that that did hit the mark, it would help us and instruct us in how to change society for the better. We know certain things to do. I think we do know ways to make society better, but we can't get the recipe right. What are the exact ingredients that you need for all people to thrive and be happy? What is the block? What is getting in the way? Some of it's people. You've always had people throughout human history that,
I think
for
all of
whatever
it is
reason,
people, no?
what'd you say?
I think all of it is people because
Yeah,
all the laws are supposed to be to benefit the community, kind of like the movie we just saw, but in a good way where it actually does benefit everyone. Like we don't want people just running around murdering everybody and not getting punished for it, stuff like that. But I feel like people are so corrupt that, well, I don't know, because a lot of it's not black and white, and so
hmm
there's difference of opinion, and it doesn't necessarily mean that it's people's fault at that point. It's just there's no clear answer. So yeah, I don't.
yeah. I was just about to say it's a mixed bag. I think there's a lot of good intended people that create blockades in society that it doesn't work out well. Their efforts to actually improve society. I also think there's people that just don't care either way. They're selfish and all they care about is living good.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so they don't try to really make it better at all. They'll do the opposite. So, but like I said, I think it's a mixed bag, and I think there's people that don't know how to make it better, so they just don't try. There's people that try and fail in unpredictable ways through no fault of their own, and then there's the evil people, or I don't know if you call them evil, but the
Misguided.
selfish, misguided, selfish people that can't get out of their own head. They're very myopic, you know, and they can only view life in a very, very particular way, and they're not enlightened. And because of that, unenlightened person in power is bound to do great harm to the social good. So, but this isn't a political podcast, and we don't have all the answers. But I think everyone just wants a better life. Everyone wants to fill the hole that they have inside of themselves
With cheese.
with cheese. Is that what you said?
Yeah, if we all just got a big cheese ball and put it in ourselves, we'd probably be all right.
Yeah, gotta try something, right? There's just, I don't know. Well, I hope it improves, and I enjoy watching society depict their struggle for a perfect society through film, of which there are many.
Yeah.
So I will find another film, and we will be back uh, next week with another dialogue.
Yes.
So, in conclusion, 1BR is a solid horror drama. I would definitely recommend it. I also think it's great for people who like deep themes and deep movies and like to think about films long after they've watched them. So I'm happy I watched, and I hope that you will too. That's a wrap.
Wow.